During the summer of 2016, the world witnessed the magic of becoming a Pokemon master with the newly released AR app game, Pokemon Go. It was a massive hit instantly, drawing longtime fans, new fans, and those who thought they'd grown up past it. That same year, while everyone was trying to catch 'em all, in Loveland, Ohio, a 16-year-old boy named Sam Jacobs and his friends were playing the game while wandering around town. Jacobs claims he began around Congressional Beth Adam Synagogue near Loveland Madeira Road before crossing some train tracks, eventually landing him on the banks of Lake Isabella when he saw something unique to the area. Quote, "We saw a huge frog near the water. Not in the game, this was an actual giant frog. Then the thing stood up and walked on its hind legs. I realize this sounds crazy, but I swear on my grandmother's grave, this is the truth. Not sure if it was a frogman or just a giant frog. Either way, I've never seen anything like it." End quote. In an interview with the local news, Jacobs claims the unidentified creature stood about 4 feet tall. He even had time to take a photo of it, which he sent in to further back his claims. The photo, shown here, has been altered to allow better seeing. Jacobs seems to have accidentally run into the local cryptid known as the Loveland Frogman, also known as the Loveland Lizard. Reports of this cryptid began all the way back in 1955. A brief history of Loveland, Ohio. Also known as the Sweetheart of Ohio. It's located in Hamilton, Claremont, and Warren counties in the southeast part of the state, with the Little Miami River running through it. On May 16, 1876, Loveland was incorporated as a village with less than 800 residents. A population spike occurred in 1950, which made Loveland a city and is now a suburb of Cincinnati. In the 1980s, the Little Miami River Railroad Passage was converted into a bike path renamed the Little Miami Scenic Trail, the same ones that Jacobs crossed before the sighting. Over the years, there have been multiple sightings with large gaps of time in between. University of Cincinnati folklore professor Edgar Sulkin compared the Loveland frog to the American-Canadian folklore of Paul Bunyan, claiming that these stories have been passed down for a multitude of decades and that sightings have become in predictable cycles. Who is Paul Bunyan? Well, the giant lumberjack of a man and his oversized blue ox stories have nothing to actually do with the frogman. It's just that these stories, both Bunyan and Frogman, are told through oral traditions before becoming an established folklore. It was a rainy summer night in 1955 of May, when a businessman named Robert Hunnicutt was driving the streets of Loveland alongside the Little Miami River when he spotted 3 bizarre creatures. Robert pulled over his car to the side to observe these creatures. He described them as being bipedal, 3 to 4 feet tall, and had leathery skin and frog-like faces. The one in the middle raised its arm above its head, holding what Hunnicutt would describe as a wand, and it shot out sparks. This terrified Hunnicutt to drive off into the night, only to tell the story and allegedly draw this illustration. Now, this is just one variation of what happened that night in 1955. Some stories don't have the magical wand. Some stories claim the figures were cloaked, and another is that it took place under a bridge. Due to no actual police report being filed and word of mouth, it's a strange thing to try and figure out which one is most possible or a tall tale. It was around 1 a.m. March 3rd, 1972, when Officer Ray Shockey was driving on an icy riverside road when his headlights came across a 3 to 4 foot leathery-skinned creature who was looking at him before standing up and jumping over the guardrail into the Little Miami River. Shockey was confused by what he witnessed and reported it to others. Soon other officers came to the scene to investigate. What they found were markings on the guardrail indicating that there was something there that night. 2 weeks later, another policeman witnessed a similar creature. Officer Mark Matthews was out driving when he spotted it again next to the guardrail. Matthews got out of his vehicle and withdrew his gun. The creature at this point stood up on its hind legs. Matthews then shot the creature just as it jumped over the rail and injured it. Matthews later claimed that what he shot was actually a large iguana that might have escaped custody. His cage. Sadly, with these two sightings and how they are so close together, there is no proof. No photos were taken of the scratched guardrail or the injured or murdered iguana. Officer Matthews has recounted this tale to an author who did not write down the part about it being a lizard, and he would later in 2016 retell the story on local news. So what is the Frogman? As of me telling this, there is zero proof of this amphibious beast. Some people do think it's a large species of frogs that only comes out on cold nights and has developed the ability to stand on their hind legs, perhaps for breeding purposes, or the ground is just too cold for them. But again, sadly none of this makes sense, and no amphibian or reptile would actually be out in the cold. Some people think the Frogman is actually aliens coming down to Loveland, Ohio, because it's the most interesting place to be since Ohio doesn't actually exist. The alien theory here is that the size of the creature feathers and their gray skin would match that of the extraterrestrial race known as the Greys. It's important to note here that there's a similar cryptid that has been sighted in the surrounding states known as the Lizardman, which is a large bipedal humanoid lizard. The Lizardman is also thought to be another alien race known as Draconians, who hail from the Draco constellation or the Orion constellation and are thought to be pure evil. But at this point, we are entering the zeitgeist of the popular conspiracy theory that lizard people live amongst us and are running the government, and that's not what we're here to talk about. After reading about Robert Honeycutt's description of the three he witnessed, I began to try and debunk this with logical reasoning, stating this. 1. Robert Honeycutt is a real person. Number 2. Honeycutt actually saw three figures. Number 3. It was at night and it was raining. Number 4. Their size is that of children. Number 5. Their skins are actually raincoats. Number 6. The wand is actually a flashlight struggling to perform its duties. Now this is my own theory and it's not a strong one, but I want to believe that maybe they all experienced something here and that it's a rare and special phenomenon specifically in Loveland. There is no Native American lore in or around Ohio that mentions any large bipedal frogmen, so I guess we have no history lesson this time. In 2023, Loveland, the city, adopted the frogman as its mascot and has multiple charity and sporting events around him. And the most fascinating thing and last thing I wish to say is that in 1954, 1 year before all these sightings truly began, a black and white horror film titled The Creature from the Black Lagoon was released. And maybe Gilman was on people's minds at that time.